Are you ready for the shocking part? Everybody's obsessed with Bitcoin sprinting towards $100,000, but XRP might be quietly gearing up for a 13-fold moonshot, and almost nobody is talking about it. Picture this: you wake up, check your portfolio expecting the usual sideways shuffle, and find XRP flashing $30 a pop. Sounds wild, right? Well, that's exactly the rabbit hole that we're diving into today. Right? Why one chart-savvy analyst claims our sleepy friend XRP is programmed to hit at least $30 this cycle, and how that could flip a crypto leaderboard on its head if he's right. So hang around, because by the end you're going to know the story, the skepticism, and the secret sauce behind that $30 target, plus the move that I'm personally planning if the stars aligned. And Elliott wave aligns. Okay, so quick refresher. XRP has been chilling around the $2 level for what feels like forever. I mean, 3 months straight of sideways action should earn a cryptocurrency a comfy recliner and a mug of chamomile tea. Now today we're going to be peaking at a $2 something, technically up a pretty whopping couple of percentage or so, but let's be real, right? We all spend more on coffee, foam, right? Now, weekly change? Possibly. Negative 1%? Nothing to write home about. Unless, of course, you're writing home to kind of tease your cousin who bought the top. And yet, here comes Steph, Twitter chart wizard, Elliott wave, expert, if you will. We'll give or take a bit of that. Now, professional kind of hype man, if you will, right? Dropping a tweet that basically says, relax, it's coded in XRP's DNA. $30 is, well, inevitable. At first glance, it sounds like every other moon prediction clogging crypto Twitter at 3 in the morning. But Steph backs it up with a full-blown 1 month, 𝗗𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 chart stretching all the way back to 2014. That's 11 years of data smoothed out like butter on warm toast. So you can actually see the macro waves instead of the day trading noise, right? Now, according to the almighty Elliott wave, right, we've already kind of knocked out waves 1 through 4, survived the nuclear winter known as wave 4's correction, and now we're allegedly surfing the beginnings of wave 5, right? The grand finale that's historically the most explosive. If his candles are telling the truth, that is. Now, XRP's primarily spiked, to $3.34 earlier this year, and was only the first heartbeat of that final wave. So let's think of it like the opening guitar riff before the drummer loses his mind. Now, I'm a sucker for a good wave count, but let's pump the brakes and translate the jargon. Wave 1, the euphoric kickoff after XRP bottomed out in 2014. Wave 2, the quick kind of reality check that resets everyone's expectations by early 2017. Wave 3, the rocket ride from half a penny to $3 in 2018. That legendary move that your uncle still talks about at family dinners while stabbing, salad with a little too much emotion. Then came wave 4, half a decade of boredom, lawsuits, and the sinking suspicion that you'd be better off buying a houseplant, right? But Elliott wave purists will tell you that a drawn-out wave 4 correction actually sets the stage for an even stronger wave 5. Kind of like stretching a rubber band, the longer that you pull it back, the nastier the snap forward. Now, Steph's projection pins $30 as the logical top for that snap, landing somewhere between late 2025 and mid-2026. That's not a get-rich-quick pump tomorrow morning. It's more like an extended ski lift itching you kind of towards the summit before the epic downhill. A 13x rise from today's price in under 2 years is aggressive but not cartoonish. We've seen crazier, right? Now, remember, Solana's $20 sprint to $250, or Dogecoin doing a 100x on pure meme fumes, compared to those kind of $2 to $30 almost feels, well, reasonable. But let's address the giant, cynical elephant in the room. XRP's been stuck under its 2018 all-time high for 7 years. 7. That's longer than most Netflix shows survive, longer than some cryptocurrencies have even existed, right? Anyone holding since the peak has developed a Zen master patience, or they've kind of rage quit and sworn off blockchain forever. So why should we believe that now, right? Suddenly, the market gods will bless us with a 13-bagger. First, we've got macro tailwinds blowing harder than a desert dust storm. Bitcoin's threatening six-figure territory again. In fact, I believe last night it hit somewhere in the $103,000 range. And historically, when the king rallies, the rest of the court eventually kind of, gets an invite to the party. Add in ETFs creeping into every major jurisdiction, and Ripple's seemingly endless kind of legal slugfest with the SEC, itching towards clarity, and a looming tidal wave of tokenization projects hungry for fast, cheap cross-border settlement. The combo could feed XRP demand like teenagers at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Second, you got supply mechanics. Now, Ripple still controls a big chunk of the escrow, and yes, some critics can call that centralized hand-holding, if you will, but Steph says it's strategic, right? Ripple unlocks coins in, predictable amounts, sells responsibly, and occasionally, for the most part, relocks up unsold portions. Now, that throttle on supply can work like drip integration or irrigation, right? Steady enough to keep the plants alive, scarce enough to make fruit valuable when the sun hits. Now, if institutions finally decide to onboard for real-time settlements, you might see demand outrun those measured releases. Suddenly, $2 looks like ancient history. Third, social cocktail. Analyst 𝗕𝗓𝗄𝗏, we still don't know how to say his name. 𝗕𝗓𝗪, maybe? 𝗕𝗓𝗄𝗏1? I don't know. Anyway, he predicts a $6.37 to $30 range by the end of this year. That's an even tighter window than Steph's timeline, and his argument leans heavily on historical patterns. XRP tends to compress, then detonate. Add ꞌDaVinci cheering from the sidelines with his $24 call, and you've kind of got a trifecta of bullish voices steering the pot, or stirring the pot, right? No kind of collective tweeting, doesn't guarantee, of course, price movements, but sentiment is often the kind of spark that lights the technical tinder, if you will. Now, let's zoom into the problem, right? Because every bubble bath comes with soap in your eyes, right? The challenge is twofold. You've got emotional and technical. Now, emotionally, holders are fatigued, right? They've watched newer projects blast off while XRP plays statue. That leads to impatience, selling right before the potential liftoff. And technically, the market never moves in straight lines. Even wave 5s wobble, right? 30% pullbacks, right? News-driven fakeouts may be another SEC headline that makes everyone hyperventilate. Surviving the turbulence requires conviction, or a kind of short memory and strong stomach. Now, for those who don't understand Elliott Wave theory, I put together a whole course on this over at 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏𝑐𝑜ol.com. There's a link in the description down below. You can go check it out. And it's important to understand how the psychology works when it comes to Elliott Wave. Elliott Wave is, of course, a psychological trading strategy. And if you are in the Discord server, you can grab yourself a 50% off coupon. So grab the coupon, head over to 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏𝑐𝑜ol.com and take the course. You'll learn a few things about Elliott Wave, and you'll spot when people are faking rather than actually being accurate. Okay, so here is where I get personal. Back in 2017, I missed the XRP $3 blow off top because I was too busy, experimenting with random ICOs that now exist only in my dusty MetaMask wallet. So when I saw Steph's chart, my first gut reaction was, great, deja vu, another rally I'll overthink and miss. Then I realized something. If the thesis is multi-year, then I don't have to time the exact bottom. I can ladder in dollar cost, style and treat it like a long-term bet rather than a quick lottery ticket. Worst case, I'm stuck holding an asset with one of the most kind of battle-tested networks in crypto and a company that's practically living courtrooms, in courtrooms until they kind of get full clarity. The best case, $30. I mean, I can finally replace my aging laptop. That kind of sounds like a jet engine every time that I open a spreadsheet. And speaking of spreadsheets, let's crunch a quick mental scenario, right? Let's suppose that you've got 1,000 XRP right now. That's roughly 2,000 and some change, right? Position. A 13x, pump puts it around $30,000. That's enough, or at least roughly the cost of a down payment on a modest apartment, right? Or maybe even a lifetime supply of avocado toast if you're into that thing, if you're feeling a little bit extra millennial, right? Anyway, multiply that by bigger banks and your numbers get spicy pretty fast, right? Remember, potential gains are meaningless unless, of course, you actually lock them in. Having an exit plan, partial sales at psychological levels like $5, $10, $20 can help you avoid the classic kind of round trip to euphoria and back to earth. Trust me, I've done that dance. It hurts. Okay, let's spice things up with a kind of metaphorical kind of cliffhanger then. Picture XRP's price as a coiled spring compressed during 7 years of, regulatory drama, community infighting, and missing out on 2 major bull runs. That's if 2023 truly marked the end of Wave 4 and the beginning of Wave 5. Right? That spring has being kind of sandwiched tighter than a New York subway at rush hour, right? When the door finally opens, okay, the translation, well, when the macro backdrop, legal clarity, and institutional appetite sinks, well, people pile in and the train slingshots down the tunnel. Now, that moment, the precise second that retail realizes institutions are already loading up, is the climax of Steph's chart actually hinting at here, right? Will it be triggered by a spot XRP ETF approval, a mega bank announcing on-chain settlements? Your guess is as good as mine, but history loves dramatic catalysts. Okay, so let's briefly nerd out about the Heikinashii candles, because they aren't your typical open, high, low, close bars. They actually average price data, which filters noise and exposes trend direction, like kind of thermal goggles in a snowstorm. Now, on Steph's monthly chart, the red to green transition, that signals the bottom of wave 4 is impossible to miss, right? Each successive green candle since early 2023 is slightly taller, suggesting strengthening momentum, even though the day-to-day price feels stagnant. Now, it's the classic difference between watching a snail race and viewing a time lapse, right? You can feel it move, but it's moving. But their charts, they don't exist in a vacuum, right? Let's bring in real-world drivers. Ripple's partnerships with banking heavyweights in Asia and the Middle East are quietly expanding. Tokenization, the buzzword of 2025, is expected to morph into real-world assets like stocks, bonds, and real estate into blockchain tokens. Now, every one of those tokens token trades kind of needs secure, lightning-fast settlement, and RippleNet with XRP as a bridge currency is basically tailor-made for that job. Add regulatory clarity once the SEC saga resolves, and institutional desks that previously ignored XRP might finally crack open the playbook. Is there a dark side? Absolutely. If Bitcoin fails to kind of hold that $100,000 level, risk appetite could drain faster than a bathtub without a plug, right? Ripple could lose a major court battle, or whales could dump escrow, at the worst possible point in time. Elliott wave counts are notoriously subjective, right? Ask 10 chartists and you'll get kind of 15 wave schematics, right? And this is actually a really important point. Elliott wave is, in my opinion, binary. It's true or it's false, right? However, the analyst using Elliott wave can add their own bias and skew things and see things that may not actually be true. Understanding Elliott wave is one thing, actually implementing it is a totally thing altogether. It is very factual if you follow the rules. Plus, $30 is a round number, right? Markets love to overshoot round numbers or reject them. So don't mortgage the dog and go all in. Risk management is still going to be the unsexy hero of every success story. And here's the personal angle again that kind of keeps me grounded, right? Crypto cycles are ruthless teachers. In 2022, I rode a promising altcoin from 10x profit back down to break-even levels because greed hijacked my brain. I told myself just a little higher until the market answered with a "nah, I'm good," and dumped. Right, XRP's potential run tempts that same greed monster. Right, this time I'm taming it with kind of preset sell orders and a ritual reminder of how it felt to watch gains evaporate. Now, if you relate, jot down your exit plan, right after this video, or join our free crypto Discord server. There's a link in the description down below where we swap strategies and keep each other accountable when FOMO kicks in. All right, so what's the takeaway? XRP at $2 might feel like watching grass grow, but under the hood, chart patterns, supply throttles, and institutional dominoes hint at a coiled spring scenario. Steph's Elliott wave analysis pegs $30 as the logical crescendo, supported, interestingly, by other analysts who arrive at similar targets through different lenses. Could they all be wrong? Of course, markets owe nobody anything, right? But the convergence of technicals, tokenization tailwinds, and the fresh regulatory clarity creates a risk-reward ratio that's too tasty to ignore. And here is the kicker, right? Whether Steph nails the exact top or not, right? The meat of wave 5, right? Everything between here and wherever the actual top lands could still be life-changing. You don't need to capture the absolute peak to transform your portfolio. You just need a solid plan and the guts to follow it. And so this is where I stand, right? Cautiously optimistic, armed with a spreadsheet and determined to treat the potential or this potential rally like a marathon, right? Not a kind of scratch card or a lottery ticket, right? If the XRP does in fact do a sprint towards $30, futures traders will be high-fiving strangers, and my dad will finally admit my crypto addiction wasn't just internet monopoly money, right? If it fizzles, well, at least we'll have a kind of epic war stories to be swapping the next bull cycle through. Do you think it's all hopium, right? Think they're underrating regulatory risk? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, or better still, pop into our free crypto Discord and debate it with us live. Just remember, bring memes as your backup.